So it's not really a matter of the needs changing, because people always have had the need for good and reliable health care. I think it's a matter of the expectations changing. So as people's quality of life in all other areas becomes better and better, and there are enough people, at least urban residents, who are in the emerging middle class or emerging wealthy class, and they experience choices in life, they're also interested in choices in health care. And despite the fact that the government is covering 98% of the population with public health insurance, unfortunately, it doesn't cover the full cost of health care for those people. So people who have to end up paying 70%, or between them and their employer 70% out of pocket, they might just choose to take that money and go to the private sector. So as that becomes, drives demand, more and more investors are interested in investing in providing services and facilities for those people who choose to make a choice to go private in healthcare. Also, there's a growing industry for private health insurance. And as people also have products that they can buy that make their healthcare spending not a risk for them, also it drives demand in the private sector. And one of the things that actually drive people to be interested in seeking change in where they get their health care and how they get it is all of the health concerns that come out of the development in China. So the pollution, food safety concerns. So people are really, health and potential illness and what that means is at the front of a lot of people's minds. So actually, the government policy is to encourage innovation in all areas, especially biotech and pharma development. But the truth be told, the drugs that are available, pharmaceuticals that are available in China, actually lag a good 4, 5, 6 years behind the United States and the West. And part of that reason, I'm not sure how much of the reason is that approvals of imported pharmaceuticals are delayed with the hopes that there'll be a domestic alternative before the approval. Part is also lack of capacity in the regulatory authority, so there's a big backlog. And part of it is just perhaps the continued inefficiency of distribution system. So, for example, the HPV vaccine that we've been waiting for so many years for approval finally got approval about 6 months or more ago, but the approval was for the bivalent vaccine, which is the last generation. So, we're only covering 2 strains of the virus rather than the 9 strains that are available in the US. And then ever since the approval, there's been no supply. So people that can afford it are still flying out to Hong Kong to get HPV vaccine. But this is true not only for HPV, but also for childhood vaccinations, for flu vaccinations. The supply is very, very irregular. So, people now, they have the awareness that they should be getting vaccinated, and that when there's no supply, it raises people's concerns and it raises people's desire for something different. Certainly the multinational companies, if they're manufacturing or doing research, they're going to make sure that they're doing it according to good manufacturing practices or good laboratory practices and good clinical research practices, because they have risk and liability, or perhaps just because they're ethical enough to not want to do it in a bad way. But yeah, so, and I think I see among many even Chinese local suppliers who have also aspirations to be global, a much higher recognition of the importance of quality. And I see also in some of the even local healthcare services providers increasing awareness and desire to do the right thing from a quality perspective. So, I never heard about this inspectors being blocked issue, and I'm sure if there was no way to do the inspections or to confirm manufacturing practices, that the product would continue to be allowed into whatever country is concerned about it. I think that the future is really bright. I'm a big optimist. I think, I'm amazed at what I see having happened, having lived in China for 38 years, having seen what happened in all kinds of sectors, including in healthcare, where things were when I first got to China, which was certainly no local technology. Chinese hospitals had no hardware, had no major imaging equipment, lab equipment. I mean, everything has happened over the last 30 to 40 years. So if we continue on that trajectory, it's great. But at the same time, there are a lot of challenges, including in the way healthcare, as in the United States, is very much supplied on a fee-for-service basis, and there's a lot of moral hazard in that. So, whereas now there are more and more pharmaceuticals available, even if we do lag 4, 5, or 6 years behind in some therapies, they're maybe being overprescribed, and people are having to take pharmaceuticals that they don't know that they don't need. Antibiotics are still overused, and I blame partially the fee-for-service approach to financing healthcare. And but there are so many complex challenges. How are doctors paid? How much are they paid? How are hospitals financed? Public hospitals financed? How does the public insurance system work? The drug distribution systems, the tendency or possibility of corruption because it's potentially a high margin industry, the rush of hot capital into healthcare services, so people coming maybe with expectations of fast returns that really aren't possible in a kind of long-term business that needs patient money to make sure that quality is maintained. So I have my concerns, but I'm also very optimistic because things are going in the right direction. Very interesting. What's happened over the last, I'd say, 7 years is that since healthcare coverage has been expanded to 98.5% of the population, at the same time, the number of hospital visits has quadrupled. And because people, feel that, oh yes, I can afford to go to the hospital now, and maybe they get their diseases diagnosed, so they go and try to treat it. So the demand is definitely exploding, and as a result, the system is being overwhelmed. And part of the problem is that traditionally China has been a very super specialized approach to healthcare. So people, when they think they're sick, they have to figure out which specialty to go to. And recently, it's been about 5 years that the government has recognized that they need to improve people's confidence in primary care and grassroots, and there aren't enough primary care practitioners in China, and so government's trying to train up primary care practitioners at a really rapid rate. It's also more complicated than just doing that, because as they do that at a rapid rate, they don't train them really deeply and completely. And so people give a try going to primary care and then get disappointed in it. So they go back to the hospitals, and the hospitals are overwhelmed again. And so although many new hospitals and a lot of new hospital beds have been built in the last 20 years, they're actually at 85% capacity. But if you look at the top urban hospitals, they could be at 110, 120% capacity. So so I think the answer is do a good job really training up primary care practitioners, stop doing only fee-for-service payment, make hospitals responsible for keeping patients healthy, keep them out of the hospital, try to do more minimally invasive medicine so people don't have to stay for days and days in the hospital. Because part of my mission is trying to help all the people that are suffering because of the pollution, and yeah, no, but even that's getting better. You know, as a resident of Beijing, I can attest to the fact that this winter has been the best, clearest sky winter that we've had in years and years. So I think even that's going in the right direction. Not without cost. So we're in the process of building 4 new hospitals, one in Guangzhou, 2 in Shanghai, 1 in Beijing. And one of the Shanghai hospitals is manufacturing its wood laminate for furniture indoors in Tianjin. And the factories have been closed down in Tianjin because, you know, to help the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei air pollution problem. So I think it's being manufactured at night on the sly, and it's delayed our construction and opening. Guangzhou, in the last 3 months, all construction sites in the city have been closed down for 48 days, some of which due to the fact that they thought Guangzhou was getting too polluted. So they closed down all construction sites, which, you know, we were all hoping for clear skies, and I salute the government's resolution to make that happen, but one has to be aware that it's not without cost.